Imagine walking into a room and everyone around you is shouting, seeking attention, acting impulsively. Yet there's one man who moves with calm, precision, silent confidence, and quiet control. He stands out instantly, like a lion among sheep. Respect isn't built on noise or drama. It's earned through restraint and self-mastery. A man's true wisdom isn't measured by how he behaves when alone in private, but by the way he carries himself in public. Every gesture, every subtle reaction, every carefully chosen word reveals the depth of his character. Stoicism teaches that how you act in the world isn't meant to impress others. It reflects the order of your inner world, the discipline you've cultivated, and the control you maintain over your impulses. Today, we're going to explore 8 key behaviors you must avoid in public if you want to command genuine respect. Guided by the timeless teachings of Stoic philosophy and principles of masculine wisdom. The first rule is simple: never lose your temper in public. Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you let anger take over, even for a moment, it reveals a lack of control over your emotions. That fleeting rush of fury might feel empowering in the moment, but it exposes a vulnerability that others can exploit. A truly stoic man never hands over that power to anyone. When situations go wrong, he remains calm. When he faces disrespect, he stays composed. People are naturally drawn to the one who can remain unshaken amid chaos, because silence in the face of provocation is the most commanding display of strength. In public, losing your temper is a shortcut to losing respect. Maintaining calmness is the quiet assertion of dominance that everyone notices but few understand. The second mistake to avoid is complaining or seeking sympathy. Seneca once pointed out, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." Complaints are a signal of neediness. They expose emotional dependency and a lack of inner resilience. A stoic man doesn't beg for sympathy. Instead, he endures hardship with quiet fortitude, adapts to circumstances, and overcomes challenges without drawing attention to his struggles. His strength is understated, not performative. Once you start voicing complaints, you exchange your inherent strength for fleeting pity, and pity never earns respect. Remaining silent, carrying your burdens without fanfare, is what distinguishes a man who commands attention naturally from one who seeks it desperately. The third behavior to avoid is gossiping or speaking ill of others. Epictetus advised, "When you are tempted to talk about someone's faults, turn to yourself and examine your own." A weak person thrives on discussing the flaws of others, but a wise man focuses on ideas, on growth, and on self-reflection. Gossip exposes insecurity. It signals that you measure your value by diminishing those around you instead of elevating yourself. The Stoic understands that the words he speaks about others define him far more than the people he critiques. He exercises verbal discipline, sharing only what is necessary, truthful, and purposeful. Observers instinctively respect the man who talks less and watches more because his silence carries weight. In a noisy world, someone who speaks sparingly yet meaningfully commands attention and admiration simply by the restraint he demonstrates. The fourth point: never seek validation or flaunt achievements. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In an era obsessed with recognition, the person who doesn't crave it becomes magnetic. Bragging or showing off reveals insecurity. True confidence doesn't need announcing. A Stoic man understands that external validation is fleeting. His approval comes from living in accordance with his principles, not the applause of strangers. He doesn't prove himself to anyone. He simply becomes the embodiment of his values quietly and consistently. Those who chase recognition often appear desperate, while those who embody quiet confidence naturally draw respect and influence without ever demanding it. And the fifth behavior you must avoid: mocking or humiliating others. The weak seek power by belittling, the wise by mastering themselves. Publicly ridiculing someone may give an impression of boldness, but it subtly communicates smallness and insecurity. A Stoic man respects himself enough not to degrade others. He understands that true dignity doesn't come from dominating or humiliating someone, it is cultivated through restraint. Even when he could unleash harsh words, he chooses silence, because maturity and self-control are far more compelling than cruelty. This choice to hold back, to respond with composure rather than insult, signals inner strength and earns lasting respect. The sixth thing to avoid is revealing too much emotion or vulnerability in public. Let's be clear. Feeling deeply is human and natural, but displaying unchecked emotions in front of others can undermine how people perceive you. Crying, pleading, or showing desperation openly gives people access to your inner world, and not everyone deserves that. Epictetus wisely taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The Stoic man experiences emotions fully, yet expresses them thoughtfully and selectively. He reserves the intensity of his feelings for moments of trust, solitude, or private reflection, not for crowds or casual observers. Controlling your emotional expression in public allows you to shape perception, and perception is a form of power. The man who can walk through the world with his feelings under careful control radiates authority, because his calmness signals that he is unshakable and self-possessed. The seventh mistake is arguing in public merely to prove a point. Public arguments rarely change opinions, they mostly reveal ego. The Stoic understands that true wisdom doesn't need constant defense. When others raise their voices, he listens. When others clash, he observes. Marcus Aurelius advised, "The best answer to anger is silence." You don't need to win every argument. Your priority is to preserve your peace. The ability to step away from chaos without being rattled is a form of power few possess. People naturally follow someone whose calmness is unbroken amid conflict, because it signals stability, discernment, and self-mastery. The man who refuses to be dragged into petty disputes demonstrates that real authority comes from control, not domination or noise. The eighth and final action to avoid is disrespecting yourself through careless behavior. This is the foundation of all Stoic discipline and self-respect. Actions like getting drunk in public, acting foolishly, chasing attention, or seeking validation undermine your image silently but powerfully. Seneca taught, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you, and that includes your own habits." Every public action should reflect the man you aspire to become. Respect isn't something you demand. It is maintained through consistent self-discipline. Your choices, your habits, your demeanor in everyday life signal who you truly are. When you act recklessly or prioritize fleeting amusement over dignity, you compromise your own authority without even realizing it. By consistently acting with restraint, you project strength and integrity, showing that your respect for yourself is absolute and non-negotiable. Taken together, these 8 rules reveal a simple yet profound truth. True power doesn't come from loudness, attention, or domination. It emerges from control over your impulses, your reactions, and your emotional life. The Stoic man moves differently, quietly, yet with undeniable presence. He doesn't announce his confidence or demand admiration. He earns respect naturally through the way he inhabits space, handles adversity, and maintains composure. Silence, calmness, and discipline become the tools through which he asserts authority without force. By mastering himself, he commands every room he enters without needing to overpower anyone. Respect, after all, is not given, it is cultivated through consistent, intentional self-mastery. Understanding these 8 principles shows that respect isn't something you can demand from the outside world. It begins with mastery of your inner life. Every moment in public is an opportunity to demonstrate that mastery. The man who never loses his temper, who refuses to complain, gossip, or seek validation, is immediately recognizable because his presence communicates stability and confidence. People are naturally drawn to him not because he is loud, flashy, or aggressive, but because he radiates composure, self-respect, and purpose. The Stoic philosophy isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming cold. It's about choosing when and how to express them wisely and never allowing external circumstances to dictate your inner state. This is what separates the ordinary from the remarkable, the follower from the leader. When a man speaks less and observes more, he projects a silent strength that cannot be ignored. Gossip and unnecessary commentary only reveal insecurity, while discretion signals wisdom. Choosing not to belittle or humiliate others elevates a man above petty behavior and earns him genuine admiration. True power comes not from diminishing others, but from elevating oneself through self-discipline and ethical conduct. Similarly, the Stoic man never seeks the fleeting approval of others because he understands that validation is temporary and unreliable. He measures success and worth by his own adherence to principles, not by applause from strangers. This quiet, unwavering confidence makes him magnetic in every social setting, and it allows him to move through life with dignity and tact. Silence, composure, and restraint become tools of influence in a world obsessed with attention and impulsivity. People may misinterpret quietness as weakness at first, but those who observe closely see the unmistakable power in control. Publicly exposing vulnerability, showing unchecked emotion, or arguing to prove a point signals weakness, whereas calmness in adversity, patience with provocations, and a refusal to be distracted by trivialities demonstrate mastery. By controlling how he presents himself, a Stoic man shapes perception and, in doing so, guides how others interact with him. He doesn't need to demand respect or assert authority through aggression. He earns it naturally through consistent, intentional behavior. Even more, a man who refuses careless behavior in public, avoiding drunkenness, foolish antics, or attention-seeking, sets himself apart. Every action, no matter how small, communicates a standard of conduct. When you walk through the world mindful of the image you project, when every gesture aligns with discipline and self-respect, respect becomes automatic. Seneca's wisdom about associating with those who improve you extends beyond social circles to your own habits, your own choices, and your daily actions. The Stoic understands that every behavior contributes to the man he is becoming, and that reputation is maintained silently through consistency and presence, not performed bravado. The ultimate lesson from these principles is that mastery of self is mastery of influence. By cultivating calmness, controlling emotional expression, speaking only when necessary, avoiding petty conflicts, and upholding dignity in every action, a man commands respect effortlessly. This isn't about dominance or intimidation, it's about integrity and presence. In a chaotic, noisy world, the Stoic man's difference is striking because he embodies calm power, quiet authority, and steadfast discipline. Each public interaction becomes a chance to reinforce these qualities, and over time, the accumulation of these small, intentional choices builds a reputation that no loudness or theatrics could replicate. When you begin to live by these principles, your presence alone communicates strength. The world may reward noise, impulsiveness, and drama in the short term, but lasting respect comes to those who demonstrate consistent self-control. The man who doesn't react to every provocation, who doesn't chase approval, and who keeps his emotions measured in public becomes a figure of quiet authority. He doesn't need to dominate conversations or assert himself through grand gestures. His power lies in restraint, in the way he navigates social interactions with purpose and composure. In many ways, The Stoic man's influence is invisible until it's unmistakably felt, like the steady current beneath a calm surface. Remaining emotionally balanced in public also serves another key purpose. It protects your autonomy. When you allow others to provoke or sway your emotions, you surrender control over your perception of reality. Conversely, by maintaining calm, you control the environment without uttering a word. This is why Stoics emphasize that true freedom begins with mastery of oneself. Epictetus reminded us that no one is free without self-mastery, and in practice, this means never letting anger, impatience, or desperation dictate your public actions. Each moment of measured response reinforces the inner discipline that separates the respected man from the reactive one. People intuitively sense this difference, and they gravitate toward those who are steady, composed, and self-reliant. Another critical element is avoiding public arguments purely to prove your point. Too often, men allow ego to guide their words, thinking that dominating a discussion equates to authority. Yet in reality, wisdom rarely needs defense. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best answer to anger is silence." The man who steps back from unnecessary disputes doesn't lose influence, he gains it. His calm in the face of shouting or confrontation signals confidence, intelligence, and emotional maturity. Others may raise their voices, but he remains unshaken, projecting a form of power that is subtle but undeniable. Over time, people begin to recognize that this kind of measured presence is more authoritative than loudness or aggression ever could be. Self-respect through disciplined public behavior is the foundation upon which all these principles rest. Avoiding behaviors like intoxication, foolish stunts, or attention-seeking ensures that your actions reinforce your dignity rather than diminish it. Every choice you make publicly either adds to or subtracts from your reputation. Seneca's guidance to associate with people and habits that improve you extends to the way you conduct yourself in public. Each interaction is an opportunity to reflect the man you aspire to be. By maintaining consistent self-discipline, you silently communicate that you value your integrity, and as a result, others naturally respond with respect. The Stoic man understands that real authority is cultivated quietly through intentional behavior, not demanded through spectacle. Finally, the overarching lesson becomes clear. Respect is earned, not claimed. By mastering your emotions, exercising restraint, speaking with purpose, and upholding dignity at all times, you project authority without demanding it. Your presence alone becomes a statement of competence, self-control, and reliability. In a world obsessed with attention and outward displays, the man who quietly embodies these Stoic virtues stands out distinctly. His calmness, measured actions, and disciplined behavior create a magnetic influence that draws respect effortlessly. The man who controls himself controls the environment he moves through, demonstrating the timeless truth of Stoicism. Inner mastery is the key to external respect, and through discipline, quiet strength, and purpose, a man commands authority naturally without aggression or spectacle. At its core, Stoicism teaches a simple but powerful truth. The man who masters himself masters every room he walks into. He doesn't need to dominate others to be respected or powerful. Instead, he dominates his impulses, his reactions, and his emotions. In doing so, he becomes unshakable, present, and quietly magnetic. The Stoic man moves differently from the crowd, silently, confidently, and deliberately. He doesn't seek attention, he commands it naturally through his composure and presence. Every gesture, every word, every decision in public is intentional, reflecting the discipline he has cultivated in private. Respect, ultimately, is not a product of volume, drama, or fleeting displays of bravado. It comes from stillness when the world is loud, calmness when chaos surrounds you, and restraint when impulses demand action. The man who can remain grounded, unprovoked, and centered, even under pressure, signals to everyone that he is in control, not just of the moment, but of himself. Silence becomes strength, discipline becomes freedom, and composure becomes influence. By mastering these 8 behaviors, never losing your temper, never complaining, never gossiping, never seeking validation, never mocking, never overexposing emotion, never arguing unnecessarily, and never disrespecting yourself, you create an aura of authority that cannot be ignored. This is the timeless power of Stoic wisdom. It is not flashy, it is not loud, but it is enduring. Each day becomes a chance to reinforce your self-mastery, your dignity, and your inner peace. By choosing self-discipline over impulsiveness, calm over chaos, and integrity over attention-seeking, you cultivate a presence that earns respect effortlessly. Remember, the world will always reward noise and impulsivity in the short term, but lasting authority, admiration, and influence belong to those who move with intention, restraint, and wisdom. This is the essence of Stoic strength, where calmness becomes power, silence becomes authority, and self-mastery becomes freedom. If you live by these principles, every step you take in public reflects the man you truly are: disciplined, strong, and worthy of respect.